Alright, so the next one I'm going to talk about is transforms. Transforms, a lot of people get transforms and transitions confused, so I wanted to hopefully be clear. The transition is the animation between two states, and those states can be just pure CSS defined. Nothing new. CSS2, this is, old stuff. Transforms are where you actually transform the element using some of these new things in CSS3. So you have scale, you have rotate. There's some things in the works for 3D transforms, so you can skew and give it a different perspective. But I'm going to show you a little bit what you can do with transforms. Let me uncomment this. So on my page I've got a few cool looking pictures. Do you see them rotate? I'll refresh. The reason why you saw them rotate is because I'm using transitions as well as transforms. But the transforms does the rotation. And I'll show you a little bit what that looks like. So when the page loads, each of these is a figure. That's a new HTML element you can use. I'm telling it to rotate at 10 degrees. So this way. And you define the transform for WebKit, Firefox, and the future standard. And I'm also doing the transition, which is the easing. And then ignore that. When they hover, I'm telling it to rotate back to 0 degrees, so to straighten out. And I'm also applying some cool I'm applying a thicker shadow. Now this is a little different. This is a new CSS selector. So I'm saying every fourth one, apply this stuff. And every third one, apply this. So I'm just kind of trying to randomize a little bit the angle. That's why they look kind of like they're just thrown on the page. And when you hover over them, they rotate back to their original position. So that's just CSS, no JavaScript. Now there's more to this. Here's bring back to what Ty asked about focus. So when I focus on an element, I can also apply CSS to it. And I'm going to use CSS transforms to rotate it back to 0, to straight up and down. I'm also going to scale it 2.5 times bigger. Add a thicker shadow. Make sure the z-index is high. So the way you can trigger a focus is either by clicking on something or by tabbing. So I'm going to show you. And so that you get full effect, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Okay. So now I can tab through these using nothing but CSS to create a pretty sweet effect. I can click more sound effects. Amazing. I didn't even use the audio tag. How does that happen? Alright, so I can click through these. That's a pretty sweet effect. This would take, I've done a lot of Flash in the past, and this alone in Flash would take, it'd take a couple hours at least. But with CSS it took, once I learned how to do it, it was no time to implement a pretty cool effect. And the fallback for this is the same as the one before.